Well, welcome to thoughtraid, where we take thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. Today is Get Naked Monday, and I'm here with my friend Eric Ibrahim, and we're going to talk about being unemployed. So hang out with us. Well, welcome back to thoughtraid. Today, as I mentioned, we are getting naked about being jobless.
Oh boy. It's an interesting experience.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool that it's you and me talking about this, and Brandon's on the sidelines because, well, you know how white people can be.
No, seriously.
I'm just kidding. I got one right beside me.
White people.
Just
Am I right?
kidding. Just kidding. But no, like in the past couple of years, I've dealt with being self-employed, which often feels like being jobless. But Eric recently left his job at Cracker Barrel as a server. And is pursuing something else. And there's guys, especially in our society right now, if you go on social media, there's tons of memes where it's like, oh, you were talking crap about your waiter making $2.75 or $2.25 an hour, and you told them to get better jobs because they were unhappy with how little you tipped them. Now that they're looking for better jobs, you're upset there's nobody to serve you.
Right.
And so that whole concept is what we're talking about today. So I guess, Eric, I want to start with like, your history up until now. You were a missionary kid for a while. Mm-hmm. And then when I met you, you just recently come back to the States, I guess. Something like that.
It was a couple of years after I had gotten back to the States, but it was when I first moved to Winston, North Carolina. Well, I guess, my life has kind of been a whirlwind. Grew up in the Philippines, like he said, missionary kid. I went to Bible school after graduating, intended on being a missionary to South Sudan, but then just through different situations, I realized I wasn't quite ready for it, and I wanted to get a bit more education and a bit more training.
I remember when you were going through that, I was like, man, I don't want him to go to South Sudan. What are you doing?
That was 3 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is crazy, absolutely crazy that we've known each other that long now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I decided I need some more training, so I stepped off the team, and I started going to Impact University. Studying counseling, and now I'm in the pastoral ministries program. And all that time, I was working at Cracker Barrel as a server, so I got to see the best and the worst of customer service. Good
old customer service.
Oh, yeah.
Can I get an amen if you're in customer service?
Yeah, so, you get the good, the bad, you get incredibly kind,
you get the good,
people.
the bad, the Christian.
The good
on Sundays, $0 tips. Let's go.
Yeah, and here's a track for that. Like,
did you actually ever get tracks as tips?
It was pretty rare that I would get just a track. I have gotten just tracks as tips, or like tracks with like $1 tips. Oh. But that was very few and very far between. I was pretty fortunate. But I mean, most of the time, people would tip decently when they gave tracks, which, I was thankful about that. So, I mean, yeah, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with customer service. And I got to the point where I don't want to just be like throwing shade at Cracker Barrel or anything. Like, that's not why I'm here. But it just some of the decisions that the management was making was kind of making it more difficult for me, and it just kind of felt like we were short-staffed, we were stressed the whole time, and just the ratio of how much nonsense we were putting up with, it just kind of got too high, and I was like, you know what? There's loads of jobs out there. I'll find a new one.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that your big qualm with your job was that you wanted to move out of customer service, which is weird because, as Christians, we're called to serve. We're called to do things even when we're not getting something in return. But you got this weird balance that you're trying to strike between survival and serving.
Yeah, I think like being an introvert, I enjoy being around people, but being around people drains me a lot because I put a lot of energy into, just being cool. That was a nice tummy rumble. I don't know if you heard that.
That was my throat. I don't know if you guys could hear that.
That was kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. No, but I guess doing customer service for so long, I recognized that like I was just emotionally tired, and I didn't have the time to well, I didn't have the emotional energy to put into my friends and into like ministering to people that I wanted to. And that, like, that's something that I needed to take into account, how much emotional and social energy that I had. That way I wasn't just burnt out all the time and miserable. So I decided, maybe a job that's not customer service, where I'm not interacting with people 24/7, dealing with all of that, that would give me more emotional energy to actually put into the ministries that I want to do and into, praying for people and encouraging people. And so that was my main reason for why I didn't want to keep doing customer service.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'd rather just do, something behind the scenes. Because it's like, it's not that I don't like people per se. Like, there's time, obviously everyone gets to points in their lives where people are just annoying and frustrating
Mm-hmm.
and tough to deal with, like, obviously. But I think it for me, it was, I wanted to be able to conserve my energy so that I could put it in the place where I wanted it to be,
So,
rather than
Can
like
I
where it had
interrupt
to
you
be.
there and ask you a question? Because
Mhm.
I think this is a big thing, especially if you guys are a Christian, or if you're out on the outside looking in, because the Christian world is really strange in how we navigate life.
Mhm.
Because if you go in the Old Testament, I think this was New Testament. Yeah, because Jesus was involved. When Jesus sent out the disciples, he said, go and take only your stick and robe. Don't take money. Don't take food. Just
Mhm.
if somebody welcomes you into their home, eat with them. Eat
Yeah.
whatever is placed before you. Sleep where you've been given to sleep. And yet we think, okay, well, I have to separate that from my survival. Because I've done that myself in the past couple of years. I've had to think, okay, well, do I want to serve God or do I want to survive? And a lot of times it seems mutually exclusive.
Mhm.
Because you just said that you had to choose between your ministry and your job when it came to emotional separation.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking about that scripture that says God's gift to man is his toil. Um, so I guess the question I want to ask is, do you feel like your perspective may have been off as far as like how you were serving versus what you wanted to serve? Like, well, actually, how you had the opportunity to serve where you were at versus what your ideal of serving was, or do you feel like you were just being called in a different direction?
I think I mean, I don't want to be like that guy, but I feel like it was a little bit of both. Like, part of it was just like I was miserable there.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't like the job at all. Like, I had good friends that made good experiences, and like, like the serving people, like, I don't mind serving people. I do enjoy it. But it's just like, I think it was the work environment
Mm-hmm.
started getting just progressively more and more, I guess, dictatorial, and just it was just, you were stressed all the time. Just with low stock,
Mm-hmm.
low like understaffed, like you're always working your butt off, and it, like, just with how all that was going, it was exhausting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, maybe there was, like, I was viewing it in the wrong way. Like, I think I was more bitter than I should have been
Mm-hmm.
towards Cracker Barrel, considering that, that's where I made money for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I made good friends there. And so, like, there's a lot of positives to Cracker Barrel. And, you know, sometimes you don't always appreciate the good things that you have when there's a lot of negatives around you as well.
Oh gosh, dude, I did that so frequently with my job, and like I just look around this room, and I think, I've got a guitar and I've got a ukulele, I've got a sweet Game Informer thing up here that's been signed by Andy McNamara, the founder or the editor in chief of Game Informer magazine. Like I got a bunch of cool stuff because I had that job, and yet when that job would frustrate me, I would come home and I would choose not to see this stuff and just the frustration.
Yeah, yeah. And like, I guess hindsight is 2020, So I think if I could go back, I would just definitely tell myself, hey, like, be appreciative of the good things that God gives you, because it's like, to be honest, life is tough with the pandemic, and life is tough with like the restrictions and how everything's going and just the way that the culture is, but comparative to like the 1800s, when, like, so I have 4 brothers, like, back in those days, like,
You'd be
I
working on a
I
farm.
probably wouldn't be alive, like, how many kids died of childbirth before the what 1950s 60s? I can't remember exactly when the medical technology like got up to snuff where the majority of your children weren't dying of in childbirth and stuff. And so it's like, you know, if you look at how blessed we are now and how good things are now compared to 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, and how awesome everything we have is, you know, it kind of puts life into perspective. Like, it's not that bad, you know? Like, yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff, but I guess that whole idea that it could be a whole lot worse, you know, that's a powerful thing.
Well, I want to use that as a springboard to move forward a little bit, because in our country, we live in the U.S., specifically North Carolina. There's a lot of people quitting their jobs right now. A lot of them that have not chosen to quit their jobs. They just were relieved or furloughed last year. Yeah. And a lot of people are just searching for something new. That's why every place has now hiring signs. Like, I was at Taco Bell the other day, and Taco Bell had a $500 sign-on bonus as long as you stay for 6 months. That's crazy. Not speaking bad about that job or anything, but it's just like fast food is considered an entry-level job, you know, and getting a $500 sign-on bonus for a lot of professional jobs 10 years ago was unheard of. But when people are looking for jobs now, we're looking for the total package. You know, there's a lot of, it's weird. Like in the 70s and the 80s, the big movement was serve the corporation. Just get in, serve. You're part of the cog, or you're a cog in the machine. Yeah. And in the past several years, I want to say 10 years, I guess as social media has become more and more, mainstream, there's been all these, self-care movements, self-value movements, cutting all the toxicity out of my life movements, detoxing movements, you know. And now people are starting to understand, well, my life is more valuable than to be a sellout for somebody else's job. Yeah. But I think maybe we're going too far on the other side of the thing. All that to say, you know, you're looking for a job now.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think we are taking it too far. And that's actually something that I've had to deal with as I'm looking for a new job, of just like, you know, to one degree, you want to make sure you're working for a company that just doesn't step on you and treat you like absolute garbage, that you absolutely despise going into work every single day. And it's literally like, you're just in there for the paycheck, and like you're just suffering through it. Like, we're fortunate enough to live in a country that we have options to, like, if that's like what you want to do, if that's what you choose to do, you can, but there's other options for other jobs. But at the same time, it's a job, you know, you're getting paid to work, to labor. So to a degree, there's that, yes, you want to be treated with respect by your employer, but also you need to suck it up and deal with it and just work your butt off. I mean, it's, in the Bible, it literally says to work heartily as unto the Lord. Obviously, it's not for the company or for the managers that we're working hard. We're working hard because, you know, every job is a gift from God, and working hard blesses those around you, and blessing those around you it's everything that we're meant to do as believers. And so we work hard, you know, for that audience of one, which is kind of cheesy, but, you know, it gets the point across. You know, you work hard for God. And so finding that balance of like being respected by an employer enough that they treat you like a human being is important, because I think standing up for yourself also gives others the bravery to stand up for themselves, so that the workplace can be less hostile, less stressful, and less aggressive, so that everyone wins in that. You know, except for maybe the billionaires who are making $5 less or whatever. They might be losing out on that. But, you know, finding that balance for me of just like, I want a job that I don't absolutely despise, but I'm also dedicated to work hard, even if that's not, you know, the most fun thing.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I know that as a lot of people, and if this is you and you feel conviction, suck it up. But if this is you and you don't have options, you know, my heart goes out to you. The concept of working hard. I had an employee at my most recent job, and I think I've talked about this before, who wanted a promotion And he said, well, I'd like to get a promotion. So I started training him for the next position, because I don't want somebody to step into a new position and just me trusting them with responsibility and not being able to fulfill. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start training you. And I started teaching him. And when it came time for him to actually put work to put his hands to the soil, he's like, that's not my job. And so I was thinking, well, he wasn't wrong though. It wasn't his job.
Oh.
It wasn't his job to do the task that I'd set before him, but he wanted to step up. And so I was trying to train him. So there's a sweet spot you have to find between that's not my job and my goal, my standard is just to do a good job regardless of what I'm doing. So how do you think, especially looking forward to from being jobless to being employed, how do you want to navigate that in your next job arena?
I think it comes down to knowing yourself, knowing like how much energy do I have, how much strength do I have, how much emotional energy do I have to complete how many tasks. Because if like I'm looking for like a warehouse type of job, but if I have so much strength to haul boxes for how many hours at, however fast I'm going to be hauling those boxes. If you can factor in, a few minutes here to help out your employees, a few minutes here to help out your boss. And like, if you can do that without it like crippling your ability to actually do your job, then I think it's a good thing to do, to step out and actually help other people, rather than just be focused on you, like what can you get done? And so really the focus on, can I get my work done efficiently and help out other people? Because if you can't get your work done efficiently and like if helping other people makes your work suffer, are you helping in the long run or are you hurting? And so, I mean, that just takes, you just have to know yourself and you have to try, just keep on keeping on. And if you find that you have more energy at the end of the day, then maybe you can dedicate more energy to helping out your coworkers wherever you can help them out. Or if you find that you're constantly exhausted with no energy at the end of the day, maybe you can put up some boundaries and say, hey, like I can help this far, but I really need to focus on my work and I need to get my work done because contractually that's why I'm here. I'm getting paid X amount of dollars so I can do X amount of work. And your coworkers, they're in that same contract as you. And so for me, going into my next job, first you just have to nail down the job and then you just have to find out, okay, how much energy and time do I have? And I think that's how you can be selfless, but also get done what you need to get done.
Yeah, let's catch up on these comments. I can't see what Austin is saying.
It says it's important to surround yourself with people with similar goals. If someone says that's not my job, is that job right for you? But also, if someone says that's not my job, it's likely there's an underlying issue behind that.
Yeah, true. And also, hello Scott and hello Austin. It's good to see you guys.
Hi.
It's Eric. I want to talk about looking for your new job and stuff, and figuring out where the boundary between where you end and where that company begins and all that. Would you talk to me about the feeling that you had, like the emotions and the thoughts that you had when you put in your notice for Cracker Barrel and when you worked your last shift? What was that like?
It was kind of emotional, to be honest. Like it was a lot of emotions, anger, like sadness, a little bit of like apprehension, nostalgia, because it's like I have a lot of really good friends at Cracker Barrel that I still like. We still hang out with, we still go out to eat and grab drinks every once in a while, and so like I knew that I would miss them because they're good people that I value, but then there's the relief of I don't have to deal with this job anymore. Which
Oh
was
gosh,
so
I remember
nice.
that, dude.
Yeah.
I went to GameStop the other day. And if you guys don't know, GameStop was my last job. We went to the one in the mall, and there was one person working that I've never seen before, and they were kind of a younger person, and they were going through hey, do you have your Power Up Rewards card? Did you know about this new game that's coming out? Do you want to reserve that? And I was just looking around the store and just how things were kind of out of place, and just looking at, I was just like, why do I feel stressed but peaceful at the same time? I was
Mhm.
stressed because I could identify what was wrong, but I was peaceful realizing this is not my ministry anymore.
Yeah.
I don't belong here anymore.
Yeah, it's not my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I get that. Like, there's just a myriad of emotions because it's like, especially if you spent a good amount of time, like 2.5 years. You know, there's people who spend like 40 years at, but I mean, 2.5 years is still a substantial amount of time to spend
Mhm.
somewhere. So for me, like, there was that relief of just like, wow, like I don't have to deal with this job, but there's the sadness of I'm gonna miss my friends here, you know.
I'm not going to be
And-
making money
And
anymore.
then, yeah, and then there was just kind of like the anger of I think just how the whole situation went down. I don't know. It just wasn't handled super well, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So I was kind of frustrated at the management that like that's how it went down. But yeah, there was lots of emotions.
And you've been unemployed for how long now?
I think 3 weeks.
Yeah. So
Something along those lines. 3 weeks.
so describe the first couple of days. You woke up and you realized I don't have to go to work anymore.
Actually, the first couple days was Christmas Eve and Christmas, so
Oh.
that was interesting.
Uh-huh.
But after the craziness of the holidays, I think one thing that really hit me was like apprehension and fear of just like, oh, I need to get a new job. Like I need to be
Mhm.
able to pay my bills.
Yeah.
Which thankfully I am kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge and don't spend that much money, so I have a lot of money saved up. So I was good for like money for a little bit. So that apprehension was,
Mhm.
you know, it wasn't terrible. Another thing was just like, oh, great, now I have to put in my applications, my
Mhm.
resumes. I need to go through the hiring process, which is exhausting, but you know, that's just something you got to do. So there was that. And then there was kind of like this, like I was kind of depressed because you don't realize it how much identity you take in your job and being employed. Because once I stopped being employed, then I was like, well, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I contributing?
Well, real quick, you know, when you first meet somebody, some of the first questions you ask,
What
like,
do you
what,
do?
what,
Yeah.
what do you do for a living? What
It's
do you do
like,
for a living? And that's like you
Good
base so
question.
much of your perception of that person on that.
yeah.
And so, like, if I had come up to you and we'd never known each other before, or we'll talk about this a little bit later, an attractive girl comes up to you and says, "What do you do?" And your response is, "I'm actually unemployed right now."
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of something that I had to wrestle around with, just like, and me and Brandon had conversations about this of just, you know, I just don't have a job right now. That's all it is. You know, I'm moving from one season of my life to another season, and me
Mhm.
not having a job doesn't mean I lose my intrinsic value of being human. You know, it's not like, you know, God hates me now or thinks that I'm pathetic or like, and even my close friends, the ones that I care about, you know, like, even they're supportive of me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, if that doesn't tell you to surround yourself with good people, surround yourself with good people. So I just had to kind of come to the conclusion and stick to the conclusion that, you know, this is just where I'm at right now in a transition period, and learn what I can from this transition period, because pretty soon I'm going to have another job and I'm going to have to get used to that work environment. I'm going to make new friends. I'm going to see how like the whole workplace works.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just transition time. This like being jobless doesn't make me like some lazy bum that's not doing anything, you know? And
Okay,
it's
so
really easy to think that.
Just for fun, in the past 3.5 weeks, as far as you're sleeping in, playing video games super late, you know, overall just being lazy, has that gone up or has it gone down?
Actually, I really thought that I was gonna, you know, be awake until 3 a.m. and then asleep till the middle of the day, but it actually didn't happen that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I stayed pretty much, because my normal sleep schedule is about midnight.
Brandon's over here off screen to the left, feeling the conviction of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, get some sleep.
That negativity in here. Just because he said he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Austin said, Eric, what are your goals? What do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? Ooh, that's a good question, man. I like that question a lot. What do I want to be remembered for? Honestly,
Crispy fried Jesus.
Crispy fried Jesus. Memes.
Okay,
memes
so
and anime.
Guys, don't take that out of context. There's an inside joke there.
Yeah, it's a meme thing.
It's still cooking.
Still cooking.
Pun intended.
My goal, honestly, is to be. It's more along the lines of who I want to be rather than what I'm doing. I have plans of being a church planner and starting small groups and stuff like that. But for most of my idea of what I want to be comes down to I want to be the kind of reliable guy that, people can look up to for help, for wisdom, that they can be around and not be stressed, a safe person, a godly man. Those are my focuses right now. As for job-wise, I'm not particularly interested in any one thing. Mostly if it puts food on the table and pays my bills, I'm completely fine with it. So I'm not super picky in that regard, but yeah, those are most of my goals of just being a solid guy that people can they can be around and they can get wisdom from.
Yeah. When I was your age,
So
when I was a young warthog, I used to think about the end goal of my life. Because that is such a good question. What do I want to be remembered for? I think a lot of people, one, have difficulty answering that. And two, if they go long enough without actually doing the work to answer that, they just think it's not attainable
yeah.
to have something to be remembered for that's positive. But I always thought, I know my life is going to amount to something. I know it's in the future, it's going to mean something big. So everything that I do now is laying the foundation for that. So it made me afraid to take a step because I knew that if I took a step, it wasn't going to be the step that I want to take or that is foundational, that is going to be like one of the foundational pieces of where I need to go because I know what that looks like in other people's lives. And so if I can't do it that way, I'm just not going to move.
Yeah.
That's also a scary place to be.
Yeah, I get that. Just kind of being frozen by if every decision that you make matters, then that's like reverse nihilism where nothing matters, and that's easy to get stressed out doing. And I think that really comes down to trusting God with your future. Because me and Brandon were actually talking about just how sovereign God is over all of your life. We had some interesting discussions, but basically, you have the whole nature versus nurture debate of what makes someone the way that they are. Is it the way that is it the components that they were born with, or is it the nature that forms them? Ooh, we got.
Go ahead. I'm just looking something up.
Yeah. And when you think about it, God controls those two things. We don't control who birthed us, who are our parents, who are the people that surround us. When you get later in life and you're in more control, you can control who's around you. But you don't control your early childhood experiences. You were born with the parents that you have, for better or worse. And you were born with the natural personality that you have. And that was a gift from God. And, if God designed us in a certain way and he surrounds us with whatever he surrounds us with for his purposes, then, we have our part to play in it. Obviously, we make our decisions, but I think you can find a good amount of rest in knowing that, if God really, intimately designed you the way that he designed you for a specific purpose and surrounded you with the things that were needed to surround you with for said purpose, you don't have to be stressed out to take a step because whatever step you take, whether that's good or bad, if it's good, you're going in the right direction and that's great. If it's bad, he's going to redirect you in some way or another.
Let's talk about that for a second because you called me earlier today and Eric has received a job offer. He put in an application with the local company and you called me asking just for some advice on what to do or what to think. Would you walk us through that real quick? Because I think this is very poignant.
Yeah. So I got this job, this warehouse job, and the ad said they were paying 17 to 18 an hour for a second shift warehouse job. And so I put in an application, I was like, cool, 17, 18.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good deal right there. 40 hours a week, I'm set. And so I ended up getting the job. They sent me like my schedule and everything. They were like, hey, we're paying you, 18. And I was really excited, like this is a good deal. I got a new job. I got, 40 hours of my week accounted for. And I'm going to be able to pay my bills just fine and even save some. Cool. Great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a text today saying, actually, we're not going to be paying you 18. We're going to be paying you 15. And I called, at first I called you and was like, hey, what, looking for some wisdom. And then I called the company and I was like, hey, what's up with this? Like, you can't be doing this to me. And they said, 18 was our holiday pay and it's not the holidays. And I said, yeah, well, I didn't sign up for the job during the holidays. So why would you say that it's 17 to 18 if that's not what you were going to pay me? So that was really frustrating for me. And, I went on a run today just because got to take care of your health or something like that. So lame.
Run off all that pizza that we ate yesterday.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was so tasty.
Oh my gosh. Like that
Papa
part.
John's, if you're watching, please sponsor us.
Yes.
Or LaCroix.
Help us out here. So I of course all the emotions run through your head of just like, I'm frustrated with this company for basically lying to me, basically like not making it clear that, like in no way did they communicate that the pay was going to go up or down based on anything. And so I was really frustrated with that. And I had some choices to make, because I can still survive on 15 for 40 hours, like I am very good at saving money.
Yeah. Well, the thing that comes to mind, which is what you and I talked about, is, I want to follow integrity. I don't want to just sell out to something that isn't going to take care of me, because that's the environment that you just left.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, we'll hire you at this amount for this purpose to do this. And you were on board, and then they swapped it for you. So now you're in a place where you're trying to choose, okay, do I want to focus on survivability or my survival? Because this is an open door that's easy and I can walk through, but it's not necessarily a door that would begin a relationship on the right foot, because there's already been a breach of integrity. Yeah.
Like, do I want to work for a company that's going to do that to me? Like, what's going to stop them from doing that to me in the future?
Yeah.
In some other way.
What do you guys think? So if you have advice, let us know in the comments. What do you think Eric should do?
Yes. Wisdom is good. I like it. Please.
We'll come back to this video in the future and they'll just have all these comments over different periods of time of what Eric should be doing.
Please help me out. No.
Yeah.
50 years old and we'll still get comments what Eric should be doing at that point.
I'm like 80 years old. Like,
I think you should.
Brandon's having fun with this.
I'm very much so.
Well, I mean, I guess, factoring in, that's how we're going to start the employment, with just like, hey, psych. Like, and it's not just like a few cents here and there. That's $3, $3 less.
That's a fifth of what you would have been making.
And so, it, like, I could just get the job and get paid 15 and I'd be perfectly fine. Like, I could survive and I could thrive and everything like that. But I also believe that, God gives us opportunities to step out of bad things before bad things happen. And if a company throws down a red flag this red and this big right in front of my face before I even start my first day, it's possible that that's God telling me, like, this looks good and it might even be good, but I might have something better. Because God isn't always particularly clear in all aspects. Sometimes you have to keep pushing and keep looking and keep praying and keep talking to people wiser than you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, of just like, I have about a day to respond and be like, no or yes. And so, I talk a big talk about how God is so good and how he's so gracious and merciful and takes care of all of my
God
needs.
is super good when things are good, but when things are bad, am I really a Christian?
Yeah, I mean,
I
is
don't know.
God gonna
I don't
take
know
care
about
of
this
me?
religion thing.
Yeah. So it's like, I talk a big talk, but like, do I really believe what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do I really believe that God's genuinely going to have all of my needs taken care of?
Well, it's kind of like being sin-minded too, because when we do something that we know is unhealthy, a lot of people have this perspective on God, like, oh, I'm going to be crucified. Like, this is separated me from God. And in the past, people had to do sacrifices to get back in good standing. They had to give up something there. And that's the model that's been set for us our entire lives. If you
the
do
new
something
covenant is
bad,
so nice.
there's punishment.
Yeah.
Oh, you said, or you wrote down the word damn on a piece of paper and you put it in your toy box, and I found I'm gonna spank you and wash your mouth out with soap. That was my
Wash your mouth out with soap.
But like in these situations, it's like, oh man, if I go to God, is it gonna be good or is it gonna be bad?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Well, where I'm leaning right now is I'm just going to find a different job, because there's tons of jobs out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
There are literally more jobs out there than I can count. Granted, most of those jobs pay terribly and the work is terrible, and there's a reason why they're hiring, because it's a terrible job.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm leaning more towards I'm gonna look for something better.
Would you take another customer service job if it was $25 an hour?
Yeah, probably.
Sellout.
Yes, I'm a sellout, definitely. I don't know. It would kind of depend on the nature of the job, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd prefer not to do customer service. Now, if it's 2 months from now and I still haven't found anything and I realize, oh, maybe I was supposed to take that job, I'll sell out and do customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it comes down to that point where it's just God showing me, like, I'm going to get you your bills paid for by any means necessary. Cool. But right now I'm thinking, I'm going to trust that God's going to bring, because that's another thing is like this job it was so quick how they hired me.
Mm-hmm.
And just through different experiences that I've had over the last month, I've seen how quickly things leave your life and how quickly things can enter your life. It's like that. Things are in, things are gone. No job, a job, no job again. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized, like, wow, like I have no way of anticipating whether I could find the job of the lifetime in a week.
Well, let me ask you this, because just thinking about what Austin asked you earlier, how much of your decision is based on, is this going to accomplish something for God, or is this going to serve the purpose that God has in my life? And how much of your decision is based on, well, I need this money to survive? Do you have boundaries set in place for all that?
When it comes to my job, I don't really think about, wow, it's going to sound really bad, but I don't really think about, like, if this job is my, if it's like God's will for me in any specific way, because the way that I see it, if you're living the way that Christ lived, it doesn't matter where you get your job. You're going to be able to love people regardless. And so a job really is it's just a way to pay bills for me. And like that's how I've always viewed it, is, this is just something to make sure.
But is it really, if it takes up not only 40 hours of your working time, but then if you consider half an hour to and from work every day, that's another hour, 5 days a week, that's 45 hours, plus the emotional ups and downs of it, we'll say 60 hours a week. Because, there's sleep and there's recovery time and all that stuff. And then going shopping for clothes for just the maintenance of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess
it incorporates more of your life than you actually see on the front end.
I guess I kind of worded that wrong. I guess it's more along the lines of ministry happens where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Loving people happens where you are. And so when it comes to choosing a job, regardless of the job I get, I'm going to attempt to love people the best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to attempt to be as godly as I can and to do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's most of my focus when I get a job, is that, like, while I'm there, I want to be as godly as possible.
Do you think long term about your job? Like,
I
is
think
this planning the foundation for what I want to do long term?
less for the job, more so for my ministry. You know, most of my long-term thought has to do with, you know, church planning and with small groups and with ministry. And I haven't really thought long-term, like job-wise, what I want to do, because I've put so much energy into what's my ministry going to look like and how is that going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe I should give some more thought to what type of job I want. You know, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Most of my forward thinking has to do with, you know, how am I going to introduce people to Jesus?
Yeah. So for those of you watching, if you don't watch our stuff recently, we this month are talking about making big changes, which is once again a poignant point to make, given the conversation that Eric and I are having. So if you go back on our channel to last Thursday, we talked about making a resolution for change and identifying what is the actual problem you're trying to solve. And then this Thursday, we're talking about making goals realistic that align with your priorities. Because a lot of us make plans and make decisions that don't align with our priorities. Then we get frustrated with the world around us because, well, we don't want to take responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, oh man, I've been going down this road for 10 years in this job. Why am I frustrated? Because it does nothing. It has nothing to do with the way I'm built. It's just a means to an end to make money. So if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button down here. You'll get a notification this Thursday when that goes up, talking about SMART goals. Makes it a little bit more obtainable. And the bell, Brandon says.
Bing.
But as far as you looking forward, Eric, you mentioned your ministry, you know, small groups and things of that nature. When you're looking at jobs, do you take those things into consideration mostly, or do you mostly look at the money?
Well, the big thing for me is the money and the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Is it paying enough? Is it paying enough to get me by? Because if
Mm-hmm.
it's not paying enough to get me by, like, what's even the point of having the job?
Yeah.
But scheduling wise, I want to make sure that it works with my school schedule, because school is important, and I put a lot of time and effort into school, and also with the small group that I'm starting, I want to make sure that I have enough time to be able to get that in as well. So I guess when I'm getting my job, I'm really trying to plan my job around my ministry, so that I would have enough money to be able to not starve to death on the street, and enough time to be able to minister to people, and in order to equip myself in order to minister to people.
So guys, before we close up, I got one more thing I want to ask Eric. If you guys have any questions you want to answer or ask him, let us know in chat, and we'll cover those before we quit. But Eric, you have a second date tomorrow with somebody.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was single, thinking about being married was frightening. I didn't date for several years just because I wanted to be in a position where I could, and back then my goal was to be in a position where I didn't have to make my wife work. You know, I would give her the option to. And so I would think, okay, well, I'm only going to start dating when I'm financially responsible in this way, X, Y, and Z. And so like the way I approached relationships was with, okay, well, you know, I can flirt and all that, but my boundary is I'm not going to get in a relationship until whatever happens. Now that's different for everybody. And you're in a position right now where you're jobless, trying to sort all this stuff out, but you're still dating. What is that like, not having income or not having I mean, you're going to impact, obviously.
Yeah.
You're getting your degree, but what is that like having a romantic or potentially romantic relationship with a girl? Or, most guys do the gorilla thing where we make noise and we flaunt, who we are and how hot we are and how strong we are.
Well, I ain't got any of that, so I don't know what to tell you.
We make ourselves known to the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Especially in today's society, what we have is considered like one of the big selling points. So approaching this from a place of I don't have specifically a job or an income, how are you navigating that?
With a lot of humility. like I guess you kind of have to come at it from the lens of it's not the job that makes me valuable as a potential boyfriend/spouse. Yes, a job is important and taking care of the needs is important and all of that. That's definitely true. But, I mean, unless she's like a complete gold digger, I don't think decent women are marrying you because you make lots of money. Like, if they care about you, like, if you vibe and you realize that you two work well together, and that your personalities match, and that you're compatible. Well, God's gonna provide the rest. If that relationship is meant to be, then anything that I need in order to provide for that relationship is gonna be met, and I have to choose to rest on that fact because it's not something that comes naturally as an American.
Well, as a person in general, because the hierarchy of needs starts with food and shelter. Then secondary to that is relationship, and then tertiary to that is physiological. So for a girl just to come in the relationship and say, I want to date you for you. She doesn't know who you are yet, but we all do this. If you don't do this, you're lying to yourself. We all engage with things thinking, what is my percentile success rate of survival if I engage in XYZ? That's always in the back of our mind. And so like, are you worried at all about that consideration from the opposite sex?
I suppose the way that I kind of think about it is that if that is something that worries them, that like me not having a job, then we might just not be, we're not compatible. I think God puts people in our lives for a specific purpose. And, I don't think that if someone finds something so unattractive about you that, they leave you based on that, then maybe it's just not meant to be, So, and it's not like I'm some lazy guy who doesn't want a job. I'm throwing in applications left and right, and I'm working towards getting a job. So I can't say about myself that I'm some lazy guy who like has no interest to work, no interest to provide for anyone. Like that, those are just not true statements about me. And if I'm dating someone or going on dates and they think, just because this guy doesn't have a job, he's lazy and doesn't care about anything. If that's the immediate, I guess, thing they get off of me, then okay.
Yeah.
I'll find someone who's actually interested in me. Then,
we have a penchant for watching dating reality type stuff on Netflix. And so we've been watching all these where it's a group of guys and a group of girls that are just brought into a house, and they're supposed, we watched this one recently called Perfect Match. And so everybody was selected and their perfect match was in the house scientifically or whatever, and they had to identify who it was that had a chance to win $1 million. And I just thought it was kind of interesting because there were some people that quit their jobs to come in this house, but there were other people who had, self-employed careers back home. And I was just thinking to myself, like, the people that had stability back home just inherently seemed more attractive. But also there was something attractive about the people that were willing to be spontaneous and not worry so much about the responsibility side of life and just be engaged and being present.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the way that I think about it, if I have the mindset that, like, a job it's the way that God provides for us to pay our bills, then there has to be a woman out there that believes the same thing, Like, I'm weird and I'm kind of out there, but, like, there's literally 3 billion women on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to tell me not one of those people thinks the same way that I do. And is God incapable of bringing that person to me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, as much as there's, you know, the job security is good and the bill is getting paid fantastic, the way that my brain processes the world and the way that I go forth into the world, go forth. Wow.
Go forth.
Go forth.
And multiply.
Yeah. The way that the way that I conduct myself, like, that's just going to naturally, like, attract the people who are attracted to that. And like, that's how that's going to work, you know? So I'm not too worried about if I'm dating someone and they're like, you know, I'd like you better if you had a job. Then I'm like, when I get a job, maybe we can get back together. I don't know, you know, but those aren't things that worry me too much, because if they don't like who I am, then why would I want to spend the rest of my life with them?
Mm-hmm.
And why would they want to spend the rest of their life with me? So God has the one.
Oof.
Oh my gosh, I sound like my dad. I sound like my dad right now.
Well, something you just said was really big that a lot of people have a difficult time digesting. And that's basically synopsizing that whole spiel that you just gave, was that your inherent value doesn't wax or wane with how much money you have or what kind of job you have.
Mm-hmm.
And if you engage with somebody, so in your example, you said, well, you know, if you don't want me, if I have a job, well, when I get a job, maybe we can have a relationship then. But would I actually want that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's so cool, because in Christianity, a lot of us believe that if we're sinful, if we have,
which we are,
if we're sinful and we're engaging in sin, then we have to do all this stuff to earn back our place as a son or daughter of Jesus, you know, or Christ. And understanding that that's not true. I mean, the story of the prodigal son sums that up perfectly. You know, the prodigal son had all this money and blew it, made a lot of mistakes. When he came home, his dad still acknowledged him as a son, not as a son without money.
Yeah.
And that's so cool. But
yeah,
anyways,
it's life-changing.
Yeah. I guess wrapping up, Eric, is there anything that has been left unsaid? Any points you'd like to make, or any words of wisdom that you'd like to offer the people listening if they're going through the similar situation?
I guess one thing that I've really learned over this time of not having a job is just trusting God is a choice. You know, it's not going to come naturally. And it's not going to be some easy thing, which I guess kind of sounds cheesy, Christian lingo-esque. But, like, when crap hits the fan, everything in you is going to want to freak out, and everything in you is going to want to, you know, do things your way. But whatever it takes to get you praying, and whatever it takes to get you looking to God, whatever that costs you to change your mind in that kind of way so that you're leaning on God and not just the way that you're used to processing the world, whatever you give up in that is worth it. So definitely, if you're in the same boat as me, if you don't have a job, or if you're in a sucky job that you want to get out of, you know, just trust God with that. Whatever tough decision you have to make in order to trust God is well worth it. Very well worth it.
Yeah. Well, Eric, thanks for hanging out and getting nude with us.
Yes, it was quite nice. I quite enjoyed it.
Just airing everything out. Yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out. If you still hung out this far, I hope you got something good. But thank you, Scott. Thank you, Austin, if you're still there. But guys, with that said, we broadcast Monday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a video going live Thursday talking about SMART goals, so subscribe and ring the bell for that if you haven't already. Otherwise, we'll see you Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're playing something cool.
I can see far away from where I've been. He says I see a potential. I see a potential in my eyes. I see a potential. I never lost sight of the reason why you're alive. You're alive. sing Jesus.